The new MacBook Neo has been designed for writers, or possibly other people as well. Okay, but it is certainly for writers because it is, I think, the best value MacBook has now. And starting at £599 or dollars, I think it's also actually the best value MacBook Apple may ever have made. This isn't going to be one of those videos that says, don't buy until you watch me or until you hear X. I'm just going to say it straight. Forget watching the video. Go buy the new MacBook Neo. There are things to know. Of course there are. But if you want to head off before I've even said hello, I fully understand. Still here. Great. Hello. Right, I'm William Gallagher. This is 58 Keys, which, as ever, as always, is for writers. Writers like you and me who use and who write on Macs and iPhones and iPads, and, of course, today particularly the Mac. Do like, subscribe, or patronise me when you can. But the MacBook Neo. I should say, actually, this is an extra 58 Keys. This week's main usual episode is the start of Scrivener month. Why and how to use the writing app Scrivener. But that will run very nicely on the new MacBook Pro. See what I did there? But yeah, MacBook Neo is Apple's latest laptop, and it is £500 or dollars cheaper than what yesterday's lowest cost Apple laptop was. That's the MacBook Air, which starts at $1,099, and there are reasons to pay that. There's also then the MacBook Pro, for being complete, which starts at $1,699. $1,699, and again, you know, reasons. Actually, let me put down those reasons because they are important. If you edit video a lot, if you do complex audio editing or a great deal of image editing, or if you're in science and mathematics work, yeah, you're going to need the MacBook Pro. But for writing, oh, come on, we're writers. We need a writing machine, and this is it. Writing, spending far too long browsing online, staring at email, waiting for that publisher's reply, listening to music and somehow pretending that's research. Yeah, that's us. And it looks like that is the MacBook Neo. Details, including things you at least need to be aware of, even if actually you're going to shrug at them. The MacBook Neo has a 13-inch screen, which is actually a little smaller than the MacBook Air's 13-inch screen. That's because it's dead on 13 inches in the MacBook Neo, where the MacBook Air is actually 13.6 inches. Just for completeness, again, the MacBook Pro comes in either 14.2 or 16.2 inches diagonally. The screen on the MacBook Pro is also brighter than on the Neo or the Air, and actually, of them all, the Neo has the lowest resolution, but kind of fractionally. It's not something you're going to notice even if you come from the other models down, but maybe if you had them side by side. Yeah, brightness, I think, actually could be an issue. The MacBook Pro screen is twice as bright, but every time I've used a MacBook Air it seemed fine, so I don't know. You can also plug an external monitor into a MacBook Neo, but actually only just the one, so it's a little bit more limited in what you can connect to it and what you connect it to. There's also the trackpad, and I'm unsure about this. I'm so used to the trackpads on my MacBook Pro and on my desktop Mac that I'm not really clear what the difference is. There is a difference. I think that it's where my trackpads, they like pretend to press, and when you touch them, they pretend to press. So you give haptic feedback, but really this one actually does, which means it's more effort to use. You're not just gently tapping against it, but don't listen to me on that one. I need to go try it out before I understand. More likely to be a concern is storage. The MacBook Neo starts at 256 gigabytes, which is kind of pushing it. I might twitch of having one that small, but then I do a lot of video editing. They have large files. And also, full disclosure, I was once burned by getting a Mac with far too little space, but that was just 128 gigabytes. I am probably still overreacting. The odds are you're going to be fine with 256 gigabytes, but if you don't think you will either, there is a 512 gigabyte version for $100 or pounds more. And actually, I like this. For the same £100 or $100 more, there's a thing that gets fixed. If you buy that 512 gigabyte version, its keyboard has Touch ID, and that is not on the 599 version. I think this is one thing where if you've already used Touch ID, you will miss it. But if you haven't, you're going to be looking at me, no clue. Why am I bothered? Touch ID lets you unlock your MacBook by touching a particular key, and the same thing lets you, it's like you're using your fingerprint instead of a password or something, or, you know, confirming payments and things. Just no question, absolutely excellent. I would find it hard now to use a Mac without that. In fact, actually, desktop Macs don't come with it. I spend a lot of money buying a separate Apple keyboard for my desktop Mac, specifically to get that. I was so used to it on the MacBook Pro. But I can't really call it essential. I can't. The MacBook Neo comes with 8 gigabytes of RAM, of working memory. No choices there. Yeah. And I think really no reason to care. More RAM is always better. Things will always work faster, but probably not appreciably so with writing and browsing and the like. And, well, this is also hardly essential, but it isn't to be ignored either. The MacBook Neo comes in 4 colours. Apple would tell you that they are silver, blush, citrus and indigo, but that would be, working backwards, blue, yellow, pink and silver. Yeah, they're very nice colours. Maybe not citrus, but yeah. And lastly, more out of curiosity than anything else, I noticed that there's no notch on the MacBook Neo where there is on both of the other MacBook models that are available. The notch is where the front-facing camera is, the selfie and video call camera is. On the MacBook Neo, that camera, it's in the bezel around the edge. It's not as good a camera, but it's there in the bezel. I have absolutely no problem with a notch. The notch is there because Apple raised the screen on either side of it. Some very vocal users seem to believe that Apple instead cut into the existing screen for the notch. There's just no telling some people. Very last thing. You've gathered, right, that I think this is a really, really good MacBook. I think it's a great deal. I want to see it in action. It's cheaper because it's based on an old iPhone's processor rather than the M series that Apple uses for the Macs. It's the first time Apple's tried that. I mean, it's got to work exactly the same. It's got to be a Mac. I'm sure it is. But I'd like to be certain sure. I'd like to see it in action. And I will be going to an Apple store to do exactly that. But I'm not going to buy one when I get there. This isn't a case of do as I say, do as I do. I have a good reason. I have a 5-year-old MacBook Pro and no reason to buy anything new. And well, that's very nice for me, isn't it? Let's also, you and me, take it to mean this. MacBooks last a long time. There's no reason to think that the MacBook Neo won't as well. So for the long term, as well as the short term, lower cost, entry level stuff, the MacBook Neo looks brilliant for us as writers, and other people, fine. That's it for this extra edition of 58 Keys. Thank you very much for watching. Do remember that this week's, in fact actually this month's new episodes are all about using Scrivener on the Mac and the iPad. I'll put a link to the first of those in the description, in fact to all of them in the description as they come out. And in the meantime, take care of yourself, okay? Write more, and I'll see you soon.